How are we doing, everyone? I am Lonzo Gonzo. We have a special two-day Three Kings Day event, Growing Up Latina. I am here with amazing Latina individuals here. I am Lonzo Gonzo, like I said. My pronouns are he, him. We are spending the next 2 hours talking about our experiences growing up Latina, what it was like, some of our favorite traditions, our background, our upbringing, most importantly, and also about the amazing charity that we're also raising, raice. Raice is a nonprofit pro bono legal social services group that gives aid to immigrants, refugees, children who are caught up in the immigration legal hell that is bound to happen in this country. They're based out in Texas, and they do amazing things like visit our clients at detention centers every day, offer medical information, as well as legal representation for children's rights since 1986. So we are raising money for this. Yesterday, we exceeded our goal, so we had to up it up. So please don't make me raise it again.
I think challenge
Or, but-
accepted is what
yeah.
Lonzo was meaning to say,
but do it. Do it.
but also do it.
So we are joined by, I think I'm doing quick math here. It's 6 other individuals here, Latina of all different backgrounds, races, creeds, and whatnot. So who are you all?
Who let you in here?
Everyone here. How did you get on this channel?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Wait, where's my car? This is where I parked
Dude, where's
it.
my car? I'll go first, though. I can just break the ice and stop talking for a long time because I'll just ramble on. I am Lonzo Gonzo, like I said, he, him. I am first generation. My father is Guatemalan. My mother is Dominican. My father immigrated here illegally at the age of 18 with nothing but a white t-shirt, pair of jeans, and $25 in his pocket. And created amazing things. Went out to LA for a bit, didn't work out there, went to family over in New York, worked in construction, learned English while on the job, did drywall in New York for 25 years, met my mother while they were there, and my mother's Dominican, immigrated over to live in Texas at the age of 12, I believe, and then moved to Spanish Harlem in New York, where she met my father. We then moved, they had me and my brother. We moved from New York City to Philly, from Philly to Jersey, and yeah, that's it. I've been in Jersey since then. But that's me. I am the first person on my dad's side of the family to graduate college. That is a stereotype that most of us don't get to see. My father finished only 3rd grade and created so much from that. So I'm very proud of him. And yeah, I'll stop talking now. Eliza, if you'd like to go first, who are you?
Sure. Yeah. Hi, I'm Elisa Pearl. I am of mixed heritage, Black on both sides. I love saying that. And I say that now because I basically spent my whole life telling people I'm Black and Puerto Rican and not realizing people thought that meant I was biracial or my mom was like lighter skin, trigueña, not even trigueña. I don't even know what trigueña means anymore. I found out it means things that I didn't realize. Anyway, I've already sidetracked myself. Getting back on subject. My dad is African American from our family is kind of mostly from South Carolina, and of course West Africa before that. And then my mom's side of the family is Puerto Rican, and like I said, she's also Black. Her dad was from Barbados. Her mom, towards the end of my abuela's life, she was like actually saying she was Black, which I thought was amazing. In her 70s, she like realized she was Black. There's a lot to discuss there. But anyway, yeah, and I also grew up in New Jersey, Lonzo. I didn't realize you were in Jersey. Yeah, so first 22 years of my life were spent in Jersey. I'm very much still a Jersey girl, even though I've been in California for 15 plus years at this point.
Hey, at least you don't have to pump Well, you do pump your
My
own
own
gas
gas.
now.
Well, we do pump our own gas. Yeah. Whenever I go
Oh.
home, I forget and I get confused
Yeah,
when
I
they
think
come
Jersey is
out.
like one of 3 states that you actually don't pump your gas.
It's very
I think
strange.
Oregon is another one, which is weird because they're on the like opposite sides of the entire country.
Yeah.
We
It's
must be
strange.
cousins, I guess.
I
We
guess
must be
so.
You
cousins.
gotta have one at each one. That's where you hold the fortress down. Like,
All
Exactly.
right. I know it doesn't make sense, folks, but I'm going to order in our Zoom. So we're going to be hopping over to Zeffy. Zeffy, who are you?
Oh, I'm up. Okay. I'm not used to that because, Z as a name, you're always last. Anyway, no, this is great. This is great. During my raid, whenever I get raided, I usually say like, "Hey, it me, Zeffy. I'm a bi black boricua because I'm triple B." But like, I love it because like with Aliza, did I say it right? I did. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're both Black Puerto Ricans.
Yay!
So that's really cool. Yeah. My dad is he's a New Yorican, but he moved there when he was a kid, and then he ended up at St. Joe's, and he actually was at the orphanage while Rosie Perez was there. So there's that. Anyway, yeah. About me. I grew up in Virginia, and yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot, pretty much alone.
What part of Virginia? Sorry.
No, please ask. In Fredericksburg. Fredericksburg.
Red Vegas.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting. Beautiful state. Don't want to live there. Yeah. Yeah, and I had a similar experience with my dad and abuela where they kind of didn't want to acknowledge the black side so much until later. Like my dad got the ancestry test back and it was just really obvious at that point.
Can't
Like
deny.
you can't deny.
Mhm.
We also found out we were part Taino, so that was cool. That was really cool, actually.
Oh, I
So-
would love to talk about that. We should talk about that.
Definitely noted. So yeah, that's the gist of it. Let's next person.
That would be Mo.
oh, hey,
Mo,
it's
who
me.
are you? Let these folks know.
I am Mo. They, she pronouns. I'm basically Chicana, Mexican. On my dad's side, my mom's side, she's a very small white redhead lady. So, so I have that fun intersection of being like multi and like growing up mostly with my mom's side because I know of my dad's side. I visit his family and stuff, and like we chat occasionally, but like the Mexican, he's been like I think third generation Mexican American in Texas. So I always say maybe the border of Mexico like crossed us instead of the family crossing the border. But he basically spoke Spanish all the way until like middle school and then spoke English and then still speak Spanish occasionally. My abuela, when she was alive, only spoke Spanish, so that was great because he never taught me. So we'll probably get into more of that later, but like, I had coming from that real like assimilated sort of like life of, hey, you're gonna be the good old American kid, and like, yeah, you have all this, but like, it's not the same. But yeah, I born and raised in Texas, lived in Florida for high school and college, then back to Texas. And so I'm here. And it's very cold and I hate it right now.
Very cold. I got like 5 inches of snow. I'm shoveling snow
I
while
don't-
in the meeting with my
what
boss.
is the snow? I don't comprehend. It's 38 right now, and I'm like, oh God.
Oh, that is cold in Texas, but it's cold.
Yeah.
All right, so that brings us hopefully to warmer temperatures. To Casey, who are you?
Hi, definitely not warmer temperatures.
Oh, no.
It
Oh,
is
no.
like 29 degrees out here.
Oh shit.
But hello everyone. My name is Casey. I'm known as Keetsie or Keet Kaboo on Twitch and the gaming spaces. My pronouns are they, she, and I am Brazilian on my dad's side and Filipina on my mom's side. So I grew up in a trilingual household, very big household, and my dad actually came here when he was about 23, probably actually my age, which is, wow, that's a moment to like internalize. Yeah, he came here. He was doing like storage work for a lot of folks, helping with construction. eventually was selling books, which is how he met my mom. They met with, I don't know why I'm telling this story. They met with them. He sold her a book, a Shakespeare book, actually, on the streets of Manhattan, Lexington Avenue, and the rest is history. And they moved to Jamaica, Queens, New York, which is where I grew up. Very, very proud to be from Jamaica, and off the F train for anybody who speaks New York. And I have lived in New York ever since, except for college. I went to college in Boston, and the rest of my family, which was a 13 family home, is now an 8 family home, still in Jamaica, still out there. But yeah, my heart is in all of those places equally. And I think that was all of it.
There
Yeah.
used to be a Jamaican beef patty place that my parents used to take us. I have no idea where it's at,
Okay.
but it was the most banging beef patties I ever had. I'm like this little 6-year-old kid with this big ass beef patty just chowing down.
We have a lot of I'm curious, was it on Hillside Avenue by any chance?
I was so young, I wouldn't
Okay.
remember. If I texted my old man now, he'd be like, "Oh yeah, this is where it was."
Okay.
I
Find
can't.
out,
So that-
please.
For the life of me, I can't remember.
You gotta text them right
Let
now.
me know. Yes,
Right.
right,
I
right
will.
now.
I probably.
Oh my god.
Um,
And I completely forgot my mom's side of the story, which is just but yeah, she came here much younger. She actually moved here with my grandpa, who left around the time that martial law was happening in the Philippines. And then my grandma and my mom followed suit. They were landlord doing like work, janitorial and stuff for a while, and eventually, yeah, moved to Queens. Okay, that is the end of my story.
in that case, that's going to bring us on over to Maria.
It's
Maria,
me.
who are you?
Oh, it's just, it's just me. It's just, me. I'm Maria. I use they, she pronouns. I go by Happy Capster on the internet as well. I am a second generation Puerto Rican on my dad's side. He was first generation born here in the States. My mom's side is white and Swedish. So I'm also multiracial, but mostly growing up in Americana kind of households with the wonderful flavors of like the things that my dad would bring. We lived pretty far away from any of my Puerto Rican family. They all almost exclusively live in New Jersey and New York, and I grew up in northern Minnesota, with like some detours to like SoCal and then Central Ohio. So didn't really like have a lot of time to spend with them growing up. So it was kind of it was a little bit strange that like they were family, they felt like family, but then like also it was kind of weird, and we can get into that later too. But yeah, both my grandparents on my dad's side came from Puerto Rico. They lived in very nearby villages, but they didn't meet until they came to the States. My grandfather came when he was a teenager, worked as, I believe, an elevator, an assistant elevator operator for a while. Didn't know any English, and then someone offered to teach him electrical work, and cut to much later where he starts his own very successful electrical company that he then raises his sons to also work in, like my dad, who's the eldest of 5, and then his brothers and things of that nature. And my grandmother came and almost had a very unfortunate transition into sex trafficking, and was saved from that by a very caring Puerto Rican couple. And they met somehow. I don't know how they met, but like very different experiences, and eventually found each other. And here I am. Ta-da.
That's Maria in a nutshell. And
That's
last
me.
but certainly not least, Randy. Who are you?
Hey, yeah. Hey everybody. I'm Randy Alvarenga. Just hearing everybody's story is super like informative, and I want to learn more. So I'm excited to be doing this. But I guess to talk about myself, which is hard. So my mother is African American, originally from Mississippi on both sides of her family. So like my grandfather and grandmother were both like from sharecroppers in Yazoo City, and then they moved up to Chicago. So that's sort of my mom's side of the story. But my father was an immigrant from El Salvador. He came over following the Civil War there. So during all of that, his family owned like farmland up in an area of El Salvador called Chalatenango. And some militia people came one night and were like, hey, your land is ours. And so they left in the middle of the night and fled to Guatemala, where they lived for a couple of years. My eldest Tio had already moved to the US and had been giving some money back to home. And so he slowly brought over my father, probably when he was about 16. My father had the education, maybe, I want to say 5th grade education before he came over here. Was promised that he would be able to go to school, and then his family was like, no, you got to work. And so my dad worked in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, which is why I asked about Virginia, because that's where I grew up, in DC. And my mother really loved to go dancing. And so she would go, and she loved to do the bachata and the merengue. And that's how she met my father, who was this short Latino man who kept trying to ask her out on a date. And eventually they married and had me and my sister. He was the oldest, I think, of 9. Almost all of that family has moved to the US now. And yeah, so that's sort of my story.
Well,
I got really nervous during that. Sorry.
same.
You're good. I got
Same.
nervous too.
So, I want to ask, this is a Latina panel. How many of us actually know Spanish, speak it, understand it, read it, are fluent in it? Show of hands.
Portuguese, yes.
All right. So no one really here is like somewhat fluent. Eliza, you're like pretty much fluent in it?
Yeah, but here's the thing. I get nervous and then I get in my head and I make dumb mistakes in Spanish and then people think I don't know it as well as I do. I'm pretty much
Yeah.
fluent though. And it was a mixture of hearing it at home with my, like when my mom would visit her cousins and my aunts and stuff, because my dad doesn't speak it. Although, sorry, wow, I'm very like pingy today, but I just found out from my sister over the holidays that our dad actually does speak some Spanish. Like all these years. We didn't know. And he was like
Deal.
saying things to her in Spanish and she was like, what? So that's a trip. But but we didn't speak it in the home growing up. I would just hear it. I kind of learned it through osmosis. And then when I got to school, in high school, they put me in Spanish 1 freshman year. I studied it and they were like, you know all this. And I was like, yeah, I do. I know all of this already. So they just had me test into I skipped a year of Spanish. So my Spanish comes from osmosis from family, but also I did study it a lot in school.
I spoke it. It was the first language I spoke. And then they put me in ESL for about 3-4 years. And it's like made me very different from everybody. And my mom and my dad had already divorced by then. So what I did was rebel against speaking Spanish really hard. And now I regret it, right? But yeah, I don't speak it very well. I can understand it a lot better, but I also would feel really self-conscious because when I would try to say stuff, like my cousins and stuff would pick on me and that kind of thing. So
yeah, I'm the same too. We hardly spoke it at home. We got it when we were in trouble, so we knew really when to pick up of what was being said. But yeah, it wasn't really. I mean, we watched, Sábado Gigante. We watched, the telenovelas. We vacationed in Dominican Republic and Guatemala, and I realized I had a privileged upbringing. I remember spending a month in Guatemala with me, my brother, and my aunt, and she would just call us patojos, and that was Guatemalan slang for kids. And for the whole month, I hated that word because I had no idea what it was. I didn't know Spanish. She was like, patojos, cállate. And I'm like, patojos, ven aquí. And I was like, or patojos, ¿qué van a hacer? And I didn't know what it was. And it just got on my nerves. And she never took the time that whole month to tell me what that word was. it wasn't until years later, like I asked my dad, like, what the hell does this word mean? It's like, "Oh, it's just little kid." I'm like, why didn't you just say that?
Because that's that word, obviously, you know.
So has anyone else like experienced that, where like Spanish was spoken at the home or spoken around family events, and you just felt like the outsider?
Oh
You
my
felt
God.
like,
Yes.
Oh,
what is
yes.
going on
Absolutely,
here?
100,000%. Like
Yeah.
my grandfather, both of my grandparents have passed on my dad's side, but while they were still with us, my grandfather would like, he was much more comfortable speaking in Spanish than he was in English, but he had gotten pretty good at it. But like when he was talking, he would go in, he would mix his languages to the point where like I could pick out half of them. And I studied like a very small amount of Spanish in school, and my ADHD brain was not fascinated in it enough to want to stick with it. Again, something I regret, much like Randy rebelling against it. I regret not sticking with it. It's fascinating to listen. It was fascinating to listen to him talk, especially like listening to multiple family members like talk loudly at each other across the room from each other while other conversation was happening like down here. But it always felt like weird. It always felt weird because like kind of how I brought up earlier, because we grew up so distant from them and from that culture. When we went there, it was like an event, because we were the family that was coming home. Um, but it never felt like they were speaking my language, because it didn't feel like my language, even though these were my relatives. Because I didn't. My dad knows it. My dad can speak some of it because he grew up with it, but like it's never been something that was in our house. So it's so hard because I want to know it so badly, but like right now I just don't.
I'm the same way, honestly, because my dad, he grew up speaking Spanish, but whenever he raised us, he basically taught us to count to 10, apaga la luz, and saca la basura, and that's it. So take out the trash and turn off the light. That's all I know. And so when I go visit my grandma, which, Texas is massive. So we lived about like originally 4 hours away, and then we moved away, and it was like 8 hours away across Texas, because Texas. And when we go visit, she spoke only Spanish. So I didn't really get to communicate and connect with her too much. Like I remember one time she was teaching me how to make flour tortillas, but she spoke Spanish, and I couldn't. My 10-year-old brain did not know Spanish at the time, and like was just like following along. Also, I was 10, so like I wasn't paying attention to cooking, like. And so I remember that. Now I'm regretting because I didn't pick up the language, and they spoke Spanish and all that, but she never felt comfortable speaking English. And then he's like, oh, you'll learn in school. So I took 8 years of public school education, Spanish, and a semester in college, and I can conjugate. I know how to do grammar really well. But speaking and listening, that's another thing, because I don't have the connectiveness of the language. And I remember one time she called me gordita, and I was like, I basically, we were leaving. I was like, Grandma called me fat. And they're like, no, it's a term of endearment. I was like, Grandma called me fat. So it's definitely like something like and then like, you learn about local cryptids, and like, I think they're talking about La Llorona at one point, and like, yeah, La Llorona is going to take you from the house. And like, because my cousins are spooking me out, like, as a kid. And so like, I'd just be like up all night, like scared that I was going to be taken by like, like El Cucuy, or like La Llorona, or like La La Shoes, or something like that.
I
Interesting.
remember there was a sorry, were you about to say something?
Go ahead.
There was a time where me and my sister also doesn't speak very much. Whenever we would go to see family, we would sort of be asked, like when they were like singing old songs from back home and stuff, we would be downstairs like playing or something. And so we were very clearly separated from the rest of our family. And then I remember when my abuelo finally came to visit in the US once, we had like snuck upstairs because the food was smelling really good. And then he stopped like everybody in the middle of this like big family like sing along thing, and like came over, and it was the first time he had seen me since I had been a baby. And I just remember him like saying all this Spanish at me, and I couldn't understand what he was saying, but it was so powerful in the moment because here was this like my grandfather, and he was like crying. And it was just one of the most profound moments of my entire life. And I couldn't understand it. And that felt really sad. I remember going home and being both happy and sad at the same time about that.
Wow.
Yeah, I do think there's a reason we started speaking at the same moment, because I was thinking of a very similar situation with my grandfather actually. And I was going to start just by saying I feel like my relationship to Portuguese was more language loss than it was never having been taught in the first place. Growing up, you know, from the age 2 on, I was flying to Brazil and back. I don't remember learning Portuguese, so I do consider myself to have like natively learned it. But and when I was about 5, my tia Vera came from Brazil and took care of my siblings as she came here to learn English. So I was very, very fluent. I was actually the house's little translator. I would run between her and my grandma and be like, "Oh, she said this," and be like, "Ela falou isso," and then we just like go back and forth like this. So I was like very much in it, but not because of my dad actually. And so when my chia left, my dad was very much kind of like, this is a big conversation in the community, but very much assimilated, white passing Latino man, has a very thick Portuguese accent, but has the visual of somebody who can pass. So very interesting identity I feel he's had to go through that I could never speak to, but he did not speak Portuguese with me. So over the years, I just kind of lost it. As much as it had been wired into my brain, I still feel like it affects the way I think. There are still words that I don't have in English that I have in Portuguese that will never feel like home the same way. But the way I really felt it was like when we would call home every few weeks, months, whatever, for holidays, just the loss of ability to communicate with family, you know, the frustration of like, I used to be like really good and I'm still the one who speaks it the best out of my siblings, but like, you know, I lost it so. And around the time actually that my grandfather passed, our last conversation was just like, "Oi, tudo bem? Ah, tenho saudade de você. Ah, isso," and just like very, very simple Portuguese. And that was our final conversation. So I try not to be mad at my dad about that, because I know that's like a complicated identity that he's also weighing, but I definitely regret not having gripped onto it harder while I had it for sure. And yeah, I don't know. I hope for I even just think about my kids when I talk about this, right? Like I want to have kids one day, and like I hope that they will feel a proximity to it, whatever that is, whatever they want it to be, just to have that access to it should they want to. And it's complicated. It's a lot, but yeah.
Anyone else got anything to say on that regard?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just, hearing everybody talk about this, the language specifically. I feel very fortunate because I have a mind for languages, and I also know Mandarin Chinese. I learned it in school as well. So I never really appreciate that the way I should. The fact that like language is not easy for most people to pick up. But I'm also very fortunate because my abuela did speak English. And so I was able to connect with her through English. And she would always encourage all of us, me and my siblings, to speak Spanish and learn it and practice it. But she never made a barrier between us by only speaking Spanish. So I'm like hearing these stories, and I have such a like deep appreciation for all of your experiences. And yeah, it's so interesting, like how we all have like different experiences, but we can connect through in these ways. And language is such a huge thing for all of us.
Steffi, did you have anything to say?
Yes.
Go for it.
Like I know the reason. Okay, background. I did take Spanish throughout middle school, high school. I took IB Spanish. I took Spanish in college, and I never got the chance to actually speak to anyone who was fluent besides my father. And I asked him, like, "Dad, why didn't you teach us Spanish while we were kids?" And he told me he was embarrassed because like growing up, Spanish was his first language, but he spoke so much English at the orphanage, and I don't know, just he got teased, and he didn't want to teach me bad Spanish, as he put it, which I don't understand. I didn't get it. But like, I think he was being self-conscious because a lot of our teachers in Virginia, at least, they were from Spain.
Yeah.
Like, what's with that? And they were teaching all of these like little Puerto Rican kids and other Latinos. So it was like, okay. It just was in conflict with what we were learning at home, what little was taught. So I don't know. It's just I feel bad. Like I want to know, but then I got bullied a little bit too. And it just makes you really self-conscious about how you sound and blah. I do want to learn one day. Now that I'm done with college.
Random question: how many of y'all have attempted like Duolingo or like any of those like apps? Because I try Duolingo constantly, and it's always starts you at the beginning, and like I'm like sort of like
Yeah.
mid at this point. I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
need you. I need to get past
Yeah,
this.
it's hard when you're like in that middle area of
Yeah.
language because I agree. Like I do Duolingo sometimes to brush up my Chinese, and for Spanish they do have those stories. Like you can listen to stories, and that's like that can be good too if you're in that middle range. But also, like, I don't know, yeah, like depending on everyone's level of Spanish, I listen to a ton of podcasts in Spanish, and that's what helps my comprehension stay really high. Now, speaking, I need to practice more speaking Spanish. And there are some clubhouse groups that are for practicing Spanish that I've been meaning to actually like join. But if y'all want to like trade, I can like send you my links and you could send
Oh
me
my
your
gosh,
links if you want to like
Yes,
get our
please.
Spanish skills up. You know?
Yes.
That's the biggest thing for me is like I've tried various like different things like Duolingo and other ways of learning Spanish, but for me it is that I have to be around it and hear it and be able to speak it frequently, otherwise it just doesn't stay. Like I know more Japanese than I know Spanish because I watch anime all the time. Like all the time.
Wait, can I add something? So I told you guys I rebelled against Spanish. So when I went to college, so I have two last names, and my name is Randolph Aníbal Jackson Alvarenga, right? So two Spanish names, two English names. And when I went to college, I was like, when people look at me, they see this curly haired black guy, most likely. Like when I would like, it's weird. People who are black obviously know I'm mixed, and people who are Hispanic know I'm mixed. White people have no idea. They think I'm just brown skin and black. So I'm like, so when I went to college, I was like, I'm going in using my black last name. It's going to be my whole identity. I went to college. That sort of changed midway through college. But when I went to go and study abroad, I went to Japan, and I'm fluent in Japanese. I ended up picking up the language. But the thing that was the most ironic about it all was what helped me speak Japanese and learn it so quickly was having had learned English in ESL and having spoken Spanish as a kid, because the pronunciation, the vowels are the exact same. And so when people would like listen to me, and they'd be like, "Oh, your pronunciation is so good for an American," and I was like,
No,
"Oh, but that's what it was." And it was while I was in Japan, and I met all of these other Latino and Latino like people. They were like, yeah, you should be learning more Spanish. And so I started like finding other people, and we would practice Spanish together. And like I had a friend from Chile we would like sit down and practice. And it was insane, because what it was I had to distance myself to be able to be like, no, this is really who I am. This is a part of who I am, and I need to accept it. And it took me way too long into my adulthood to realize that.
With that said, Maria, did you want to finish?
No,
You were
that
go.
was it. I just like it. It's kind of the idea that like the way that I learn is by doing and by hearing, being around it. So I pick up accents really fast if I'm around people long enough. Like if I'm in Jersey or New York where my extended family is, like you would think that I lived in New York for my like half of my life, because I will pick up accents really fast. And if I'm around other languages, I pick up like the way that it is spoken, but not, I don't know what the hell I'm saying. I don't know what's coming out of my mouth, but I can definitely make it sound like that, whatever that person's saying, you know? So it was more just like a comment of like, I could learn it. I just need to be in a good, like, I need some better ways of learning it than just like, you read it from a screen and then read it back to a screen.
Oh
Definitely.
gosh, yes.
I'm the same way. Like Duolingo is just a little too slow for me. It's like, come on, let's go to year 2. Let's go to year
Yeah.
2.
Yeah.
So let's move forward. Seeing as most of us kind of have either shied away or wanted to embrace our culture, our traditions, what are some of your favorite traditions? I know mine
Food.
is like food, definitely.
Food.
Food, the music, the food, and I can't dance for shit.
Oh, I can though.
I cannot dance
No
for shit.
merengue either?
No, and my dad, like I married a white woman, love her to death. But he was like to her, he's like, "You want to learn how to dance merengue?" And she's like, "Yeah." She's like, "The easiest way for me to put it is pretending you're in the movie theater, trying to go through the seats, through the aisle, and just shuffle across.
Oh my
That's
god.
the easiest way for me to put it.
No way.
That's it. Like if you picture it, that's exactly it. That's exactly what you do. You
is.
just gotta do
Yeah, that
this.
works.
Just shuffle across. So like a few like permiso, perdón, permiso. And that's it.
That's great.
So with that said, what are some of your favorites? Because mine's, like I said, like it's to get together with my family. My dad brings in family. We have family from like Pennsylvania. We have family from my mom's side in Texas, California. There's some people still in Dominican Republic and Guatemala. But when my family comes in from PA, it's a get together. The music is loud. The music is loud and on purpose. And I've got that from my dad. I do a barbecue. I bring my little JBL Bluetooth. I'm blasting that.
Yes.
I am blasting, like salsa, merengue, or whatever. I am blasting in the backyard. It's just me, my kid, and my wife, and an empty backyard, and I don't give a shit. So let's start with Rainey. What's some of your favorite cultural traditions?
So there's 2, and I don't know if they're like specifically everyone's cultural things, but for me, what sticks out in my mind is one, my family always played soccer on Sundays. It was a big thing. Everyone would go to La Cancha. They would be wearing like little fake uniforms that all had Alvarenga on the back. It was a thing, and like it happened every Sunday like clockwork. And I don't know, it was just always like I would see my other cousins there and we would be running around playing. And it's just like this family feeling that like I can't even really describe, that was very different from what it was on my mother's side of the family when they would have things. And then like you said, the food and the like dancing and music. My tia had a house in like this quiet suburb, and like they would be, I remember once they brought real trumpet players and they were like playing the trumpet outside late at night in
way.
like this little suburb neighborhood. It was, but it was so fun, right? Like everyone's dancing. There's like lots of El Salvadorian food, and when they cook. It's like a spread on a table, and it's giant. Yeah, those are some of my favorite things. It's like the smell of like that food is just so iconic, and yeah.
My dad would love the grill. We went to the CONCACAF final game, Mexico versus Jamaica in Philly. He brought his homemade grill. He's giving food out to everyone. We're like tailgating before and after. So food is like the biggest thing. And it doesn't matter who you are. You want to eat, you come over, you get a bite to eat. Maria, food. Of course.
Food. So okay, I'll talk about 2 food things, and then it's gonna get a little sad. Growing up, we had a lot of financial troubles growing up. So we kind of ate what we could. But one of the things that we almost always were able, like my dad would make sure to make, was fried plantains, as well as, oh no, I get them confused all the time. They're like fried cornmeal, like pockets.
Like
almost.
pastelitos?
Oh,
Arepas?
Arepas?
pastelillos.
I don't know. Oh no.
Mm.
Yeah, it's like cornmeal based. My father's going to laugh at me. I'll remember it someday. But those are really like the two things that anytime I ate them, and he would also make like yellow rice, and he would always like get it really charred on the bottom and like scrape it off and eat the like really crunchy rice at the end. And he just started like recently making like arroz con pollo and then that sort of thing. And it's very, very good, because like that specifically is something I remember from my grandmother used to make, was like, there's so much chicken and with so much rice and everything in the house. But the biggest thing that I'm realizing is I don't have any. I don't have any. I didn't grow up we didn't really deny the Hispanic side, but there's a lot of like family trauma that was related to my dad's side of the family, which is one of the reasons that we didn't live so close. And as we got older, it didn't get better. So it's really hard, because I really like, my soul belongs with everything that you're saying. Everything you're saying is like it's like a fire in me of like, yes, but also like I wish I had that, because it feels right, and it's not what my family experience was, which is super sad, and I wish it was different, because it sounds so nice.
I'm with you on that, so I completely understand.
Oh, go.
I was like, do you just want me to go?
Yeah.
All mine is like food related. However, the only times we spent time with my family was Thanksgiving, and that's it. It was everything else would be my mom's side. Everything else would be would just be us. Like, it was, I don't know why. And of course, my dad has machismo and he doesn't talk to me, so like pulling information out of him is like pulling teeth. Like, it's and so I remember waking up in the mornings and there'd just be food. So like whenever I go get breakfast, it just reminds me of that. So like tortillas, refried beans, like eggs, bacon, all that stuff. Just food. Honestly, that's all I have, because I didn't grow up with that, and I wanted to, but it just as a kid you don't have that control, and then when you become an adult, you don't. There's no connection that you can really like try to claw back to if you're never there in the first place. So yeah, good times. Love it. So now that's why I try so much now. Like, I'm trying to learn how to make tortillas, and like trying to like learn how to do my own stuff, and like trying to like get into Mexica, and like we were talking about tarot cards earlier, so that's why I'm having this box. And learning more about the culture, just because I'm trying to get back what was taken from me as a kid. So
Yeah, how about you?
tag someone else, make it better.
I can make it better.
Go for it.
So definitely food is a huge, wonderful tradition that I brings me a lot of comfort and joy. Again, like very thankful and grateful that we learned a lot of recipes from my grandmother and her sisters. So my grandmother lived in Miami for like 35, 40 years. And one of her sisters lived in New York City in Queens. So, hey, yeah, Queens. So my cousin, like my tia abuela and her daughter and her son, we were all just very close growing up. We would go see them in Queens. And so we learned a lot of cooking from her. And then we learned a lot of cooking from my abuela in Miami. And my sister and I now, actually, my sister, obviously my mom, cooks a lot of Puerto Rican food and recipes. The three of us And now my sister's kids who are in their 20s have learned a lot of the recipes. So that's like really something really great that we've been able to pass down along the generations. Here's the thing though, there's plenty of Puerto Rican recipes that we didn't do and that we didn't know. Like I knew what coquito was growing up my whole life, but I had never had it. It was an alcoholic drink. I was a kid, so I never had it. And even though I don't drink now anymore, I recently, like in December of 2020, my sister gifted us, like the women in the family, a Zoom cooking class where this Puerto Rican chef taught us how to make pastelillos, which was another thing we never made in my house, and coquito.
Yes.
And so what I love about her doing that, it was just saying like, hey, this is our culture, but there's also stuff we missed that we didn't get. And it's never too late to tap into those. It's never false to tap into those. Like, how else do we regain our culture if not by taking it back and grabbing it back? And also, just like, y'all didn't ask me for this, but I just want to encourage you all. I know there's a lot of shame sometimes that we feel when we lose our language, we lose our culture and stuff, but that shame doesn't belong to us because we're literally colonized people. Like our ancestors were colonized, and a lot of the reasons we lost these cultures was because of colonization, and that pressure to assimilate is because of colonization. So I just like hope everyone, and also everyone watching too, just like try to like externalize that shame because it's not ours. It's not our shame. You can always learn your culture. You can, even if you learn a little bit of Spanish in the next year, that's great. You don't lose any of your Latinidad or your street cred for not knowing Spanish or for just having learned how to make arroz con gandules or whatever it is. So yeah.
My white wife knows how to make arroz y guandules, and even gets the concon or pegao, whatever you want to say. Like,
Oh yeah.
she does it. I can't. I haven't learned how to do it yet.
I'm awful at arroz con gandules. I cannot. I'm great at other things. Like I'm great at like anything plátano based. I'm great. I always mess up my arroz con gandules, and I've been making them since I was like a teenager at least.
Zappy.
I just want to say thank you for saying that. Like, oh, my heart, the feels. That was good. Thank you. And like that kind of relates to my story with my dad. I mentioned that he grew up in an orphanage for the most part. So there was like that disconnect from food. Like we got a lot of Goya boxes, their rice growing up, which was an attempt, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It's close. It's not the same though.
Right. So, but like this Christmas actually, I got him this what was it, Daisy Martinez book. And yeah, I figured that'd be something we could like bond over, is learning these recipes because she's Puerto Rican. I don't know. I figure she knows what she's doing. So that could be a good way for us to like reclaim our culture because I mean he missed out too. He didn't have someone cooking him Puerto Rican meals growing up, really. So yeah. So that's a bit of hope.
Totally. That's awesome.
Yeah. But
Casey, how about
beyond
you?
that,
never
oh,
mind.
sorry, go.
Sorry, no. Steffi, please finish.
I almost forgot to mention, I grew up seeing my parents dancing in the kitchen a lot, like merengue usually.
So
And like,
sweet.
yeah, it was just so sweet. And I forgot to mention also that like my mom's side, very white, very, very white. That's why I'm so light skinned. I was the first brown person I got to be related to. So that was a whole other box of worms. But I don't know. I thought it was really adorable that like she learned how to dance merengue for him. And she actually was better at cooking rice and chicken or arroz con pollo than my dad, ironically, but he was better at potatoes. So my mom's from Idaho, so that's a potato state. Go figure. But yeah, that's it.
All right,
As far as
Casey.
memories.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, echoing just so much of this, like I realized upon question being asked that there weren't really, well, for one, there wasn't that much Brazilian presence in my house growing up. It was just my dad and all of us who were mixed Brazilian, once my chia left. So I mostly felt it when we did visit Brazil. And I don't know why the thing that sticks out to me so much is café de manhã, which is just like breakfast. I don't know, something about that, just like the bread is always toasted just right. And then we would have cremoso that we would put, which is this the, like creamy cheese, like jelly like thing. It's so good. I don't know, probably didn't sound very yummy, but things like that, like the rice is tossed very loose. And I don't know, all of those like sensory, like the smell of the rice, everything was very, very strong to me growing up. And, you know, I haven't even been back there for like 7, 8 years. It's been a pandemic. It's been 10 years now.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's been a long time. But I also want to honor the ways in which my dad did try to bring that in, even though he had his own demons to fight with assimilation and like all of that. Like something we did a lot growing up was every few months or so, we would take all of the photo albums out of my house and we would just sit them on the kitchen table and we would just spread all the photos out. And my dad would pick one up and he'd be like, "Oh, this is your tio Joshi. Like he did this." And when we were growing up, we used to run through Peña and like do all of this. He would tell stories. And they're just these photos that I see them now and I still remember those stories. And he definitely tells them, even though it's the 30th time. And like I know. But he's just so proud. And that's kind of how he, like, I know that there's a starvation in him as well to like connect to that part of him and that he had that robbed essentially because of, you know, everything that led him to be where he needed to be. And I just really love like photos on the kitchen table. I would always go home, like go up to my room with like 5 of them and I'd be like, "Oh my God, she was so pretty. Oh, this is my Lola. Oh, this is my Chia." And like there was just this deep connection and storytelling. So that and music. Oh my gosh, music is I'm never gonna have the words to explain like what it feels like to turn on a Brazilian song and just the way it speaks my heart's language. You know what I mean? Like I'm just like, oh, like something so deep about like I don't even know what instruments are being played, but it just like that is where I feel my home, even if I can't presently in language or whatever it might be. Like I love that those things are kind of stable and forever in their own ways. Yeah.
I will say this. Yeah, music as well. I'm a big music fan. So
Yes.
there's an app that I have on my phone called Planet C that you could get radio stations anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world. I mean, I love Latin music, but there's this station in Germany that's playing like house music, and there's like um Afro Latino like infusion into it that it's just like I'm doing dishes in the middle of the night. It's like 1 a.m. I'm just bopping to like here comes like the Afro Latino like rhythm, and you just start going like, let's watch this, let's go like this, like just keep going. But anywhere in the world there's radio stations, so like you don't have to feel like there's this one place. Because where I'm at, I'm in Jersey, and like Philly's 20 minutes away. There's 3 Mexican places near me, but there's no Colombian, there's no Venezuelan, there's El Salvadorian near me. There's the best Mexican place by me. That's no. To the point where like there was this one Mexican place called La Azteca where my wife's like, these tacos are amazing. And my wife was like, the cheese in this is great. I'm like, babe, you gotta ask them what it is. Maybe it's like Oaxaca, maybe it's like, you know, something else. So like just ask. She's like, excuse me, like what cheese is this? No lie, dead face. American cheese.
No.
Oh,
American cheese on the
God.
taco. American cheese on the taco. We're like, this is the last time we're coming here.
Oh my God.
But I like seeing that most of our traditions center around family, because that's what being Latin pretty much is. You have your family. Whether it's the family that you've made in college, taking classes together, when you went overseas and you know you went to Brazil and you had the kids down the street that you hung out with. There were plenty of kids when I went to Dominican Republic with where we would just I learned Spanish from some of them. I learned what Yu-Gi-Oh was. I know how to play Yu-Gi-Oh. I know how to play like Super Mario Brothers because the kids down the street. And it's good to know that no matter where we came from, no matter how far disassociated we are with that culture, that food and music can bring everyone together. To see like you're coming down the steps and you see your family dancing in the kitchen and breakfast is there on the table, like that's a special place. That means a lot. So with that said, what we're going to be doing actually is we're going to be taking a little bit of a break. We're going to go to break now. When we come back, we're going to have a lot more questions with these amazing group of people. So grab yourself something to drink, do a little bio break, grab a snack, practice de merengue. You're going down the aisle. All right, everyone. We'll be back in a bit. Welcome back, everyone. We are back from the break. Again, this is Three Kings Day, Growing Up Latine, raising money for Raice, a nonprofit pro bono legal that provides legal services as well as child's rights for migrants, refugees, and children since 1986. I'm not sure. Does it look like? It looks like we beat our goal.
What?
We beat our goal by about, I think,
Yeah.
$25. Just by
It
like,
just happened.
yeah.
Ooh.
So
Heck yeah. Heck, by
Um,
$5. Let's go. Let's
Fine.
go. Let's keep going. Keep going. Let's
Yeah,
go.
Yeah,
Come
keep
on.
it going, keep it
Alright.
going.
Raise it,
Um,
More,
raise
more,
it another
boss.
500.
Yeah, I'm doing it. I'm doing it right now. As we're
Hell yeah.
no, that's
Let's go.
not it.
Yes.
That's awesome.
So
That is
we're
amazing.
going ahead and just change that right there. So boom, right there. I see it's changed. Great. Thanks. Thank you everyone for donating that. I was not expecting to do that live,
Yay.
but thank you so much for giving to that. This is an amazing cause, especially with our amazing legal system and immigration system that we have. You know, these people do need our help. It's a lot because it's mostly single mothers are coming through with children or just children by themselves coming through. And if they're female presenting, they're usually underage. Like it's scary. It's traumatic. So with that, we're gonna try and lighten the mood up a bit by going for our next question. That will be, when you encounter other Latina individuals, groups, spaces, how do you feel going into those spaces, and how are you perceived within those spaces? For me, I am very much of a chameleon. I get everything I am under the sun. Spanish, Hispanic, Latina is usually the last thing on the list. It's usually, are you Indian? No. Can I see your license? Are you sure you're not Indian? It says it on my license. I'm pretty sure. I was fortunate to honeymoon in Hawaii, and they're like, are you Samoan? And I'm like, if you could teach me how to cook, yes, I would gladly. But Latina is like the last thing I get, if that at all. I normally get a little nervous because I can't speak the language. I will do my damn hardest to, but I normally get English first, and then I'll have to say like, oye, puedo, pásame un soda, or dame un poquito de lechuga con ese sandwich, and then
Donde está el
then
baño?
yeah, like that. And then like then they're like, oh, okay, like he knows a bit. He knows a little bit. Okay, I see him. And then you get that. And then it's like, am I going to trip over my words? Am I going to conjugate right? Am I going to present myself in in the right tense, or even use the right word? Is it patelito? Is it empanada? What are they using in this situation? So how was it for you folks for that?
Whew.
Who wants to go first?
I can go first. I'll try not to make it a dissertation. It's a mixed bag for me, honestly. And to give more context, so Lonzo, one of my cousins is like you. He's half Peruvian, not like you. You're not Peruvian, but he's half Peruvian, half Puerto Rican, and he looks kind of like similar to you. And people always think, first of all, people never think we're cousins when we're hanging out because we look literally like two like different races from each other. But people always think he's like Indian or Southeast Asian. And so my family is very mixed in that way on my mom's side, but mostly Black Latine, and with some other folks sprinkled in. And so for me, growing up in Newark, New Jersey, which is mostly Black, mostly Caribbean, Black Caribbean, I never questioned my own Latinidad until I got around people who didn't understand my community, like the Caribbean community, the Puerto Rican community. Once I got outside of that little bubble of like Afro-Caribbeanness of Northeast New Jersey, that's when people started questioning what I was. And that's when I started questioning what I was. I was like, oh, is this confusing for people? Why is this confused? I don't understand what the thing is. Another strange thing that I have encountered and still to this day encounter is that my mom is darker skinned than me and my dad is lighter skinned than me. And so people, when I say I'm Black and Puerto Rican, I'm African American, I figured out, oh God, there's so many different ways I've like learned to describe what I am. And none of them is like the one that people will get the first time I say it. But when I say I'm Black and Puerto Rican, and then people see my parents, one darker skin, one lighter skin, they assume the lighter skin one, my dad, is the Puerto Rican one, without fail. And I have people who've now known me for several years that I work with on projects that still would think that. And I was like, no, I've told you my mom is Puerto Rican. My mom is the one who's Puerto Rican. And they still like, they're like, oh yeah, that's right. It's like, there's this default of Latina that people see in their mind, even when they themselves are Latina. And it's hard to break from that. Even like when you are a person in their life, like me with my like nappy hair and my like caramel brown chocolate skin, they still are like, oh, but you're not the default. So I'm always going to default to that thing. And you're kind of like the outlier. So that takes a toll, obviously. It's really hard to exist as a person who people don't automatically see, where you always have to keep explaining yourself, explaining who you are. And it's hard. It's really hard. And then I also will say, though, when it does click, when you meet that random person and they're like, oh, you're Puerto Rican, cool, I see it, yeah, I get it. It feels so good. It feels so good to be seen and to be accepted as you are for who you are, and to have like that connection with people. And I don't want to make it seem like the negative experiences outweigh the positive, because that's not the case. I think it's just more emotionally it's harder emotionally when you get this like constant barrage of, but you're not this, but you're not that, but you're not this enough, you're not that enough. And then, we all relate to the language issue. And during the break, I don't want to tell their story for them, but Mo mentioned like, you try to speak Spanish to someone, and the second you fumble one little word, they switch to English. And that happens to me a lot too. And that actually, Lonzo, you responded to a tweet that I put out there a few weeks ago that got a lot of attention. And it was because I was telling this story, and I hate telling this story. And I actually hate that tweet got so much attention, because I was like, oh God, it's such a not good memory for me. But I think I needed to share it because a lot of people kind of like, it was helpful for people to hear someone else going through it. But the tweet was that I shared this story about how many years ago, like 9-ish years ago, I was auditioning for something, and it was in Spanish. And I don't remember what the project was. I don't remember what it was, but I know the role was for a reporter. And I, pushed past my feelings of, do I belong here? Should I do this, to do the audition? And I also even did research. I was like, yeah, there are Black female reporters in Spanish. Not many. There's like 2 at the time that I could find, but now there's more, which is great. But I really literally had to prove to myself that I had to be there, which was hard enough to like when you're doubting your own validity. But anyway, I go to the audition. I had studied it. I had practiced it. I had even practiced like what other things they might, if I had to improvise something in Spanish, I was like, okay, this, what's the realm of where I might be speaking? And so I go in, and a few words in, there's one English word. And so I start the audition in Spanish. I say the English word as an English word. I didn't Spanishify it in my pronunciation. The session runner stopped me, and I think he was a white male. I'm not sure of his ethnicity or heritage. And he's like, oh, you said that word wrong. Do you speak Spanish? I was like, yes, I'm here. I speak Spanish. Yes. And he's like, oh, because where are you from? And I was like, I'm from New Jersey. My mom is Puerto Rican. And he was like, oh, your mom is Puerto Rican, but you're not Puerto Rican. And I was like, okay. And I don't remember what happened after that, but I'm pretty sure he didn't even let me finish the audition because he was convinced I shouldn't have been there. So That was rough. And it's something that honestly, psychologically, I'm still dealing with to this day as an actor. I have since then had like a handful of auditions in Spanish. I've started getting callbacks for Spanish auditions, which is yay! I'm so proud of that. Um, and one day I will book something in Spanish. I know I will, but it's been a struggle to have the confidence in the room that I need. And like I said before, I speak enough Spanish to say I'm fluent, but I get really nervous because people will jump down your throat if you mess up one word. I stumble in English. We all do. Like, it doesn't mean we don't speak English. Like, so it's really rough, language wise, and also in terms of race, because I feel like a lot of people are just looking for some way to diminish my Latinidad because of my skin tone, because of my hair, and then because I stumble on a Spanish word here or there.
Definitely. And that's horrible because we all deserve to be in those spaces. It doesn't matter if we're light skin, dark skin. It doesn't matter if we look a certain way. I certainly don't look Guatemalan, but I am Guatemalan. I mean, period. That's it.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to take that away from me. I mean, we could even trace my ancestry roots to Mayan. You're not going to take that away from me. Like that's part of me. And my kids are white passing. I have to teach them, this is where you come from. This is where you are. It's to the point now where like whenever my oldest sees like a dark skinned person, it's like, Daddy. I'm like, well, good. Like, dark skinned people exist in this world, and not all of them are your daddy though. But you see them and like you realize that these are people that belong in these spaces. Did anyone else want to share?
Yeah. Listening to that, I can tell you the moment I decided to say fuck you to what people tell me I can and can't do. And it was I was in college and I was studying music theater. And I was getting ready to graduate, talking about like, hey, I think like what type can I get cast as, right? And I said I wanted to do this audition song from In the Heights, which was the new musical that was really big at the time and had personally spoken to me as the first generation son of somebody from another country, right? That show spoke to my heart. And I said, I want to do a song from this. And the white man who sat at the other end of my desk, of the desk, told me, oh, but you don't read Latino. And I just said, fuck you, because I am. And I walked out of his office and he came in and apologized. And I just remember being so furious that someone who'd never spent a day in my life could tell me what I was or was not. I've shared a lot about my story, but part of what the question is how do I feel going into these different spaces? It's been hard for me my whole life. I grew up in Washington, D.C. D.C. is pretty diverse. It has a lot of Latinos and a lot of African Americans, and they don't typically get along in that city. And so like I had to navigate sort of where I fit in. And when I grew up, that was really hard. But I also had to navigate it within my own family, which I think was the hardest part. And what I mean by that is, so my dad's side of the family, his father traces his lineage back to Spain. He's very proud of it. They talk about it all the time, blah, blah, blah. Cool. They actually have Afro-Latino roots in them and like native roots as well on my grandmother's side, on my abuela's side. But they never talk about it because they are very light-skinned. I've had people like when my dad came to pick me up from school, like being told like, who is this? That's my father. No, he's not. He doesn't look like you. But my mother, who is like way darker than me, of course she's your mom, right? Even in my dad's side of the family, though, like I had family members who weren't very happy that my dad chose to marry my mother. And when my abuela was there, my abuela shut that shit down. And I always have like this deep love for my abuela because having some native roots, and she's felt some of that racism before. She was like, no. But when it was just my father and my tios, I had tios who were racist for a long time. And so I know that when my mother and my father were going through troubles, like that's part of what broke them up. And so it took me a long time to feel okay with myself going into a room and telling people I was Latino. And I remember people sometimes looking at me and being like, I've had both. I've had really great people who are like super welcoming in the community, and I think that that's really what saved me in accepting my own identity when I went abroad, because everyone abroad was like, oh yeah, no, you're Latino, what are you talking about? Yeah, of course, right? But here in America, I've definitely had people tell me I'm not, like I don't speak Spanish, I'm not, and I'm like, and that's been hard. And so it's finally gotten to the point where I just don't care. I know what I am, and I'm proud of it. And that's, I think, the big thing that I'm the most proud of in my life is sort of realizing who I really am, because I am both, and I will, and that is a huge part of it. So yeah, it's been rough though, I will say.
It's amazing that the bar that is set to being Latinas, do you speak Spanish?
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be that. You don't have to know Spanish to know your culture at all.
I know.
Mo
I know. What, oh, you
or
go ahead.
Okay,
Maria.
Maria. Yeah.
For me, a lot of it, I haven't had a lot of experiences being around like other Latina cultures, or people. There was one coworker I had when I was working at GameStop who was also from Puerto Rico, who like he came from Puerto Rico. He was like roughly my age, and we like connected immediately. But he looked much more Puerto Rican passing than I do. I've had to deal with a lot of internal prejudice against myself because of the culture that we live in, because of how I grew up. Not that I didn't grow up in a racist community at all. I grew up though with a very white mother and a father who is 100% Puerto Rican but has albinism, so has white skin, blonde hair, and blue eyes. He had to deal with a lot of stuff because of that. But those are the two parents that I had. And seeing myself and my younger brother, who look, we're the closest looking like Puerto Rican passing people. People thought that we were adopted for a long time. We're not. Those are my blood parents. But it was really hard, and it's only been within the last couple of years where I've really been unashamedly Hispanic. And none of the shame was brought on by like an outside force. Like I haven't been like harassed because of that, mostly because I've been so quiet about it. And like I'm still processing and trying to like, come to terms with that, of like, the shame that comes with like not being, or rather not accepting who I am, regardless of how like small or large or whatever. It's in my blood, it's here. But then also like, why am I afraid to just take that? And I think a lot of it is just society being like, everything that is coming from like immigrants from Mexico, and like the huge outlash from that, and like just immigrants in general. And I'm like, but I'm not an immigrant, but my grandparents were. And like, a lot of like having to sift through all of that has been really hard. It's been so incredibly hard, especially having not grown up in the culture as much as I wanted to. It took a very long time for me to be like, yeah, my family was from Puerto Rico, but I never said that I was Puerto Rican, I did, but it was like in passing. I never really like truly accepted it for myself. And it really took like, you know, continually talking to my father about like his experiences, like positive experiences with the family, things that, you know, my grandparents would have told him or told my mom, of stories about Puerto Rico. Watching In the Heights, but surprisingly, was like a huge connecting point to me because I could translate what was happening in that movie with experiences my father and stories that I've heard from my grandparents. And all of that kind of like mushed together has made it more real, even though I haven't physically lived those experiences. But it's definitely something that I'm like, still, I get excited when there's other Puerto Rican people, specifically Puerto Rican people around. Like I get really excited, and then I just don't stop talking about it now because it's just really exciting.
Puerto Ricans have so much Puerto Rican pride. It's
Oh my gosh.
ridiculous.
Yes.
Look what my
Ew.
dad gave me. Like he's
Oh
like,
my
Separate, you
God.
gotta have this hat.
Yes. Every
Never seen
year,
a
my
Puerto
mom
Rican
sends
Day
me
parade?
something that says Puerto Rico on it prominently. Like I have so much.
I need to. I
Okay.
need to get a flag. I need to get
So
a flag on
so
here.
bouncing off that, so I grew up in Texas most of my life, and then like for high school, I went to the suburbs of Fort Lauderdale. Like, so I grew up in like South Broward County, South Florida, all that stuff. The amount of culture shock of not only being in a big city from being a small town country thing to a big city, but like is the seeing the Latin community, like the Latinx community, just like so pride. Like everybody was wearing the Colombian, the El Salvadorian flags. Like they wore those big chain necklaces. Also, this is the early 2000s, mind you, so you know style and all that. But still, it was just it was just like they wear the hats and they had their like necklaces or their jerseys, and I was like, what is this? This is so cool. And like
Mhm.
that's how I learned like about the other like other things other than like what I the small little sliver of Mexican that I knew, because my viewpoint was very small for my family. But yeah, that made me really happy.
Makes me
Um,
happy.
but I guess I can go now since I'm still talking. So.
No, Mo, I'm sorry. I thought you took
No.
like a natural pause there.
No, I was yeah. So honestly, for me, I've been told like I'll go into grocery stores like in South Florida in Miami, and like people gas register you know Latinx behind the at the gas stations will just talk to me in Spanish, but I am a white girl with a tan to white folks. And then to other Mexican folks, I'm not really Mexican, I'm Mexi light. Or like, you know, some sort of thing where they had to put me down in some sort of way because I'm not like full Mexican or whatever. Or whatever that means, you know? And I've dealt with that a lot growing up. Not only with my cousins, because all my cousins are they're not multiracial. They're not, you know, they're all like they have Mexican on both sides of the family. And then I like me and my sibling are the only ones that are like, you know, white and Mexican, like, you know. And so yeah, it's always been something that I've dealt with because I always just, you know, that liminal feel of like I don't belong in either spaces, you know. But I do at the same time, but also I don't. And yeah, it's just one of those things where I still fight, and that's why I fight so hard for multiracial folks in general to like get out there, because y'all are, you know, you still have those experiences, and they're different from everybody else's experiences because you have both, and you felt the prejudice from both sides. Like, you know, go out and do the things, and like, and people like, you know, multiracial folks are there that have white in their family. They're like, oh, you know, I'm not blah 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 enough to like, I'm not POC enough to be part of like the all POC streams. And I'm like, you
That's
are.
me.
You right there in the camera. You are like, because I've been there. I still feel that, and I constantly, and that's why I'm happy with being a caretaker for Utopia, which is a BIPOC TTRPG channel. And we're a community first, but you know, and then we build into it. You know, we have our streaming stuff too as well. But like, I'm proud of the group that we have because we're able to just have the experiences and like have people there, and like I get to push and promote them and do things for them. So yeah, even though I myself did not have good experiences being multiracial because of how everybody viewed me, I am trying to make it better for everybody else around me. So yeah.
Beautiful.
Cool.
that you're trying to make it better for everyone else so they don't have to go through as much. That's really great.
Awesome. Mhm.
I hope to do that for others.
Yes.
Zephy, did you want to say something in
I
regards to that?
do. Yeah. Like okay, so like I grew up in Virginia, like an hour away from Randy, and the diversity like plummets. Like a lot in Virginia. It was a predominantly white school. So interestingly enough, like at first, I had a very positive experience. Like if I ever met anyone else who was like Black or Latine, like it was just like, oh, thank goodness, we're not the only one. I don't have to be the ambassador. So it was really nice for a long time until like the end of high school. But like before that, I would visit my family all the time in New York, and we would have really yummy food. And like there was okay, it's like weird. It was good in that we were very together, but I was also taught that even though we're black in a way that doesn't count for some reason. I don't know. And I didn't really fight against that until high school with my father. And it was a bit of a point of contention because have you seen Training Day with Denzel Washington? He's playing a Puerto Rican. And
What?
yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
didn't know that.
That's awesome.
yeah. Anyway, think of him like my father, where like it doesn't count though, or like it's just there's this weirdness for, or at least with my father. I can't speak for other Black Puerto Ricans. Or it didn't count. We were just Puerto Rican. Just say you're Puerto Rican. Don't say that you're also Native and you're also Black. Don't. Just Puerto Rican. It's like, okay. But it didn't make sense because like I had so much kinship with like the Black side, obviously in Virginia, because it was mostly white people, then Black people, and then like a very small amount of like Latins and Asians. That's it. But yeah, so mostly good. And then I got to end of the high school, and that's where I met that one guy in the IB Spanish class who I think he was just trying to neg me in retrospect. And then became like the trend of like, oh, you don't know Spanish fluently? Okay. Don't really want to talk to you anymore. But it wasn't always like that. It just sticks out whenever you do get that pushback.
Right.
Yeah.
It's usually positive, honestly.
Mhm.
Like people are usually like, oh my God, you too, Boricua, like that sort
Yeah.
of thing. Like there's this joy usually. Just
That's
sometimes.
I totally feel you on that. Those negative moments really can be overpowering. It sucks. Like,
It really does. So yeah, that's how it has been in California. That's where I am now. I don't know if I mentioned that. It's a mix. It's mostly positive, but I've been getting a lot of kickback. And like even when I'm streaming, I use the Boricua tag, and people will come in and ask me if I speak Spanish. I say no, and like they type it out in Spanish, and I can read it, but they're just like, ew, and that hurts my feelings a lot. But I've mostly had positive experiences with the Boricua tag. I will say that. So, yeah.
I will say this, just want to interject that when you think about it, I mean, Puerto Ricans specifically, but also I think like a lot of different Latina communities, but for Puerto Ricans, most Puerto Rican people or people with Puerto Rican heritage aren't on the island. Like our diaspora is huge. There's more, what I'm saying
Massive.
is there's more Puerto Ricans outside of Puerto Rico than there are on the island. That doesn't in any way negate the ones who are on the island, of course. But in reverse, it also doesn't negate those of us who are diasporans. So I just wanted to put that out there. Like, there's so many ways that we do it to ourselves where we kind of like box ourselves out of the community because this, because that. Oh, I'm not this enough. I didn't grow up there. I didn't do that. I've only been once. I've never been. And it's like, yeah, I think the more we can teach ourselves not to do that, the better. And that ripple effect will also, like you said, Mo, that's something that we can work on it for ourselves that will also benefit our communities and other people so that they can learn to stop doing that too.
Yeah. That's why I support so many people, because even though I don't feel it, I want them to feel it at least. Because I'm still working on myself, but in the meantime, I can support others.
And we can be role models while still acknowledging that we're working on it too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
100.
absolutely.
Yeah. It's actually, sorry, a little side note. I don't know if y'all heard of Big Bad Con. It's a con in California that used to happen a lot, but because of the panorama, it doesn't really happen. But in 2019, they actually had a big old push for people of color to like actually show up. So they had the Babylon Equality Project, where they actually like had like 30 people flown out. Like they raised a fundraiser to like help people from like around the world get there. And I think there's like 50 to 60 like POCs like overall that were at Big Bad Con. 30 of those were alone from the Babylon Equality Project. And so one night they actually had a big old dinner where they had everybody that was POC to go have dinner together and like just do all that. And then the next night they had a mixer where if you're in the tabletop community or the like the industry, you can like find people who were like work for Paizo and pass your card, or like, you know, talk to like someone in streaming, and like not only talk to other people that are trying to get you like connections to work, but you're able to actually like also like meet other folks. And there was people there that were also white passing as well, but they had these experiences of being like, you know, Latina. And I was like, and they, you know, this one person in particular was talking to me about like how they're worried about like not being good enough. I was like, you're here right now, you're doing the thing, you're good enough, like, you know. so yeah, Big Bad Con when it comes back. Just
I want to touch on that just a little bit because it is specifically about like this right here, what we're doing, and previous things like Mike, who was leading the panel yesterday, has been so incredible about pushing us and the small community that we've made to like doing these sorts of things. And then, you know, people like you, Lonzo, who are like coordinating these huge things. Is I never saw this growing up. I never ever saw it outside of my family. I never saw this. So like seeing people from all spectrum of Latina and Hispanic and, you know, Afro-American and everything all mixed together, but all of us being like sharing the same heart is so incredibly inspiring. I've talked your ear off about it, Lonzo, so many times. And I'm going to keep telling you until it gets into your head that this is
Yeah.
huge for me. And if it's huge for me, I'm one person, and there's so many more people out there that it has to be huge for too. So thank you for this space to just exist and be energetically ourselves.
Casey, what about you?
Yeah. First of all, I want to say it's so interesting because I feel like I'm relating to so much of this from my Filipino side and not as much from my Brazilian side, which is interesting. And you know, it's not even that interesting because colonized by Spain, right? There's lots of patterns there. But yeah, I mean, that is kind of like the starting point. Is I feel like I passed as Latina, or like passed as Latina to people not because of my Latina side, but because of my Filipino side. And I'm actually confused for Hispanic, specifically like Spanish speaking, a lot, but Brazilians don't really identify me either because Brazil is very white and very black and very mixed, but not really, a little bit of an Asian presence there, but not really. So very complicated in terms of the perception. I feel like echoing a lot of what Zephy said and what Randy said, just so much feedback all the time from other people about how we're perceived, right? Like growing up, I think I did not immediately understand that my experience was going to be so different from my dad's, and that I wasn't necessarily going to be able to rely on him to talk me through this experience. Because God, like even what was this, a couple of years ago when I was filling something out for college, y'all know the like little race checky things on things never make any sense, right? This one was ridiculous. I wish I took a picture. It made no sense. None of them were going to fit remotely. So I was laughing to him about it, and I was like, there's either like white not Hispanic or white something, and I was just listing out all the weird stuff, and he was like, oh, I guess you would be white not Hispanic then, right? And I was like, of all of the choices, not even Asian, not even like just completely white, not Hispanic. And his reasoning was, I came to America so that you would be American. And I was like, wow. So that that proximity to whiteness that I don't have, though. I'm actually darker than both of my parents. So as a mixed kid, not being able to really relate to either of their experiences and them not being able to coach me through any of mine, it's just, and feedback within the family. Oh my gosh, I heard somebody speaking about that. I don't know if it was Zeffy or Mo. Somebody was talking about feedback within the family, and that really spoke to me. Like, my grandpa consistently tells me in a self-deprecating way, right, that like I don't look Filipino at all, in a way that's like, oh, it's good that you don't. You know, you don't have my nose, you don't have my eyes, you don't, and that's like heartbreaking in its own way. You know, my grandma doing my hair growing up was, your hair's so thick. Oh my gosh, your hair, like, why do you have such thick hair? You know, it's my Brazilian hair. So all this feedback from family consistently, Asian people saying I look white at school, and proximity to a Hispanic identity, but I'm not Hispanic. So like very complicated. And I feel like when I went to Boston, I was so excited because people kept telling me like, you're gonna love it. Like, there's so many Brazilians in Boston. Oh my God, like this is this. But I went to a predominantly white institution, and also Boston is a predominantly white institution. And the existence of Brazilians in Boston was actually like almost completely white Brazilians, like almost completely. And I very quickly felt that. I feel like I've never had to define myself so cleanly than when I like felt the edges of myself against like the white background, you know? I don't know. It was just, they were, as soon as I entered the room, there was like, first of all, red flag when you're going into like a club or an organization that is touting a race or a culture and there are no Black or Indigenous folks in leadership. I should have known that was the first red flag, but very quickly, the way I spoke, you know, the way I look, I felt like I had to act different to be any kind of fitting, and I'm never about that. So I just very quickly stood out and left and dipped. And I found a lot of home in the Latino community at BU outside of those organizations, because it was a lot of Afro-Latinx folks. It was a lot of Indigenous folks being like, I did not fit in that group. So we kind of like made a little bit of a home outside of it, you know, and I joined Capoeira. I did Capoeira for a couple of years, which was amazing because that was led by someone who actually had ancestors in Angola and things like that. And it just, I felt a lot more at home there. And also strangely, like, again, bring back the Filipino because they're inextricable at this point. I've found so much home and connection with Latinos through my Filipino side in a way I did not expect, specifically with Mexicans. I don't know. We just have so much of the same like food names. And I always joke that we were like colonized the same way, which is disgusting. But yeah, we were just a lot of home there. And I feel like eventually how I made peace with it, like outside of school and orgs that, you know, where to find home in a very white space and stuff like that, was just by existing and like really refocusing my attention on my community, the communities that I care about, rather than consistently having to define myself in relation to whiteness, which has been surprisingly very hard, especially as a creative. I feel like people expect brown creatives, Black and brown creatives to define themselves in opposition to, and in contrary, having space and community to just be has been hard. Like, oh, I don't have to explain myself to y'all like over and over again. Y'all just understand, you know, and then I get to take up even more space. So it's been really beautiful, but surprisingly, like an arc I did not expect getting to this point. So yeah.
Can I interject real quick about
Sure.
the Hispanic or the race and then like ethnicity bullshit that we have in our
Yes.
Oh my
society?
gosh.
Yes, please do.
So I did not know that it was a part of a treaty that happened in 1848. It was the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. I actually just learned this like maybe like a little bit ago, but like I was just like, because I had to do stuff for work. I had to do like sensitivity course, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll do this one Latin stuff. And like they're talking about the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. I was like, that's why I have to say I'm white. God dang it, I'm not white though. Like, but also at the same time, like I'm not anything else. But like, it's just like, can I just claim Hispanic and that's it? I don't want to be called an ethnicity. Like, yeah.
won't
I've
fill it in.
always felt so lost with that because I'm like, but I am Black and Hispanic. Like,
Yeah.
what-
Right?
Literally.
Well, then also like I'm white and Hispanic, so like with those things, like what do I?
Yeah.
I've just now I literally just check both. I check white and also I'm Hispanic because like I'm
Yeah,
literally both.
same.
You can't tell me I'm
When they
not
won't let
both.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I-
like
then the
you're
ones
not
that
gonna
only
let
let you
me.
check
I don't
white.
care about your rules. Like I'll mess up your whatever algorithm. I don't care. I'll be that one person.
I just
What
want to know
sucks
because I'm
is,
like,
like,
whatever. Yeah.
What
Yeah.
sucks is when it's a bubble and you literally can't. You can only
Yes,
choose
the
one. It's like,
bubble.
really?
Yeah. Yep.
The circle ones, I'm like, oh, I'm about to start.
Yeah.
I've
We're gonna
started
always
doing,
gotta fight now.
Like,
Let's
yes,
go.
I've started doing prefer not to say now, and my
Same.
sister actually started
Mhm.
doing that too because we're like, you know what, y'all
I
are just
know.
this is ridiculous.
I
getting
say
weird.
Black,
Yeah.
prefer not to say in
non-Hispanic, really,
Hispanic.
that's the
Like,
only,
yeah.
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 I
that
lost
was
my job in-
complicated too. Oh,
Yeah, I lost my
Yeah.
job in 2019, so I did job applications out the wazoo. And when they came up to that, I was like, no, I'm not. Because
I
you start to
know.
think at a certain point, if I'm putting Hispanic and I'm filling out X amount of applications X amount of times a week, it's been over a year, I haven't got the job. Is it
Mhm.
me or is it because I'm
Mm,
checking
or is
this
it the
box
algorithm?
Yeah.
that's putting me in the bottom?
Mm.
So
That's wild. I used to be like a big proponent of like, no, I'm gonna fight. I'm gonna put whatever version of myself I can. I don't want to put other. I don't want to put else because I'm not else. I know what I am. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so
Yeah.
I was very prominent about that, but also the whole alignment to labels to begin with, right? There's something to unpack about that. So
Mm.
at this point, yeah, if I can't put, and it's weird, I have to put like I'm Latina, but I'm Asian, so I look like an Asian Latina, but I'm not. I'm just both. It's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
yeah, you know. Anyway,
this
that's
is something we could
Sorry,
delve into.
you
Like,
you spoke about it earlier, and that's where my brain just automatically went
Yeah.
to that little
Mhm.
little nugget
no,
of
no, it makes a lot of
information.
sense.
Yeah.
unfortunately,
Uh,
we are coming to like the end of our time, and there
Oh.
is so much more we could talk about.
I was like, how many more questions you
Yeah.
got on that list?
all of them.
We don't need a list. What are you talking about?
All of them.
I
Out of
feel
this
like
list,
4.
every like short of 2, everything else has been improvised because this is how amazing this group was. I really wish we could go on for hours. We might just continue this offline. I don't know. I would love to. But as we wrap up, first off, thank you very much for stopping by. We're gonna go. I'm actually gonna follow the panel this time. Mo, where can we find you, and what are you working on?
Okay. Hey, I'm Mo with AG Pronouns. You can find me all over the internet. That's TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. Not really Instagram. At Sariana Bezos. I am a tabletop content creator, meaning that I do actual play, podcasts, and live streaming. I also am a writer. You can see a lot of my work with Junk Shop, Blood and Banquet Hall, Kids on Brooms. I'm sorry, not Kids on Brooms. Kids on Bikes, Teens in Space, and I am now a co-writer for Kids in Capes. So we're working on that coming in 2022.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm so excited for the Kids on Cape stuff. I also did sensitivity consulting, so I could read your stuff if you need me to. And I'm also a caretaker for Utopia, so if you are BIPOC and you want to find a little community and possibly do some streaming and get some opportunities that way, and build up a resume or just hang out with people that are the BIPOC folk and just socialize, follow our Twitter at Utopia TV, and catch us on the Twitch and follow. We have an application for Discord if you want to join us, so we would love to have you. But
Sounds like a great
this has
tabletop
been, yeah. I thank y'all so much. This has been wonderful. So, yeah.
Next, we'll go to Maria. Maria, where can we
Hello.
find you?
It's me. You can find me right here. But also, I am, of course, and will always be Maria, they, she pronouns. I am on the internet as Happy Capster. You can find me there. Twitter, also kind of Instagram, but also here on Twitch, where I stream now 5 days a week on my own channel, doing a variety of different things. Most of it is video game related and chilling and chatting and hanging out. I am also a TTRPG content creator, much like Mo. That includes things like TTRPG actual plays. I am part of the a bi-weekly Pathfinder 2e game on twitch.tv/waffles maple syrup. That is so very, very lovely, so wonderful, sponsored by Paizo and all those good things. I am also part of a friend group called Mythos Mystery Society, where we play like a bunch of kind of comedy, but mostly horror, like Cthulhian based, very silly times that are also very scary sometimes. And I am the co-founder and project manager / community manager for Goblin Society Games, which is a company that I co-founded with my spouse James, as well as a friend of ours, Joe. And we are making TTRPG content. We made a book of a bunch of magical items for D&D 5e. We're working on about 700 new projects that some people got to play test while we were at PAX. And the last thing is I am an artist. I'm a not a graphic designer, a digital artist. I do overlays and things of that nature, such as these ones right here that I made for this event for us to use.
Let's say, who did these overlays?
Oh my goodness, it was me. So you can check out all this stuff that I'm doing on my Twitter. There's a new pinned tweet that has literally everything that I'm doing right now, as well as if you wanted to get overlays or emotes or things like this. That's me.
Yeah.
Casey.
Yeah, hello. I'm Casey. You can call me Casey or Keat Kaboo, whatever. My resume is a lot shorter because I'm so new to streaming, but you can find me at Keat Kaboo here and Keat Kaboo on Twitter. And I'm also a game developer, specifically a narrative designer. I have a game of mine linked on my Twitch channel, which I should probably have in a more handy place. But yeah, you can find my work there. I'm a writer. It's really fun. And I'm talking now because I feel like I should be, but I don't have anything else to say. So it was really great being part of this, though. So thank you.
No problem. Randy.
Hey, I'm Randy Alvarenga. I am like everyone else, a content creator here doing streaming and actual plays and things all over the place. You can follow me on Twitter at Roller Raja. That's ROLLER RAJA. I'm relatively newer. I would say probably since I moved back to the US in 2019. So I definitely love more people to follow me if you so feel. But also like there's lots of games. There's D&D and Savage Worlds and Pathfinder, and a lot of it hasn't been announced yet, so I can't talk about it all. But yeah, but I have some stuff coming. So if you want to know more, Twitter. All right.
Eliza.
Yeah, so I'm Elisa Pearl, and you can find me at Elisa Pearl on Twitter and Instagram. Also, I'm a sometimes streamer. Appease Elisa is, you can see, I've been in the chat. Appease Elisa is my Twitch channel. I'm gonna try to stream more regularly this year. We'll see what that means for me. But I am an actor, writer, improviser, game master, dungeon master, TTRPG player, and TTRPG content creator. A lot of my game mastering has been I've game mastered all over and lots of different systems, including D&D, Star Trek Adventures. I ran a Klingon campaign for about a year. And a lot of the work I do in TTRPG content creation is with a group called the Streampunks. And you can follow the Streampunks as well. Right now, I'm producing a show called Metagame with Streampunks, which is coffee. It's exclusive for our coffee supporters, but you could support us at like $5 a month and you can see this show and plus some other exclusive content. But in that show, we basically meet a new game every month. And I'm focusing on indie games, and I've decided to also focus on BIPOC game designers too, as well. It's only once a month, so I'm like, I have a huge long list of games. I'm already like adding some of you to that list because y'all are awesome, and I want to see your games and stuff that you designed. So check out Metagame and Streampunks, and follow me on all the things. I have new shows starting in a couple weeks, and it's too many to mention here, so just follow me on Instagram and Twitter, please.
It's my turn, isn't it?
Hey.
All right. Yes, it me, Zephy, and I predominantly stream on Twitch as far as content creation goes. Right now, I'm playing mostly RPG games like Final Fantasy 14, Genshin Impact. You know, that update's about to come out. I'm excited. And I will be playing a cozy game next month because
it was a reward for meeting a charity goal for for T for their assistance dog. Anyway, I think it'll be Stardew Valley. I've never played it, so we'll see how that goes.
Oh, but you'll love it. I think you will.
It's so cute.
It's
It's
so
very
cozy.
cute. I should rephrase. I played through the first day and it stressed me out. So,
But for real
I don't
though.
know
If you want a
what to
buddy,
real, though.
listen. If you want to play buddy, let me know, please.
I'll play it with you too.
Ah,
Yeah.
Let's go.
I just get so nervous. I'm like, there's a clock. Ah! Anyway, that'll be happening next month. I'm totally down to coordinate with y'all. Y'all have been so cool and nice. And this was like kind of healing just to hear like how y'all could relate to like everything. I mean, it's kind of sad, but like the commiseration was nice. And you know what? I like how so many people said like it's our goal to make it better for everyone else. I really appreciate that. And that's my little tangent. I stopped talking about myself. Whoops. But anyway, I too also play TTRPGs. I love D&D. I've been role playing since I was like a kid. Like I did Neopets forums, Dragon Riders of Pern. That was my first role play. And then I LARPed in college at Pittsburgh. That was a lot of fun. And then D&D started that like 5 years ago. But yeah, that stuff's been fun. I've been on a few like charity streams, role playing. So much fun. Other than that, yeah. About to make a YouTube, but there's nothing on it, so don't check it out yet, please.
Hey.
Wait, it'll be there soon.
Exciting.
So
Yeah.
so I have a question about the fundraising. How did that go?
It was a lot of fun. I was surprised like how well it went, because like I call myself a baby streamer, but like my community came through and they meet my goal of $200. I was like, what?
Oh, yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and like before that, we raised 150 for Rise Above the Disorder. And I was just like, y'all, this is December. People are buying gifts. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Appreciate that. I want to do more charity streams. It's awesome. Oh yeah, it was with Calamity. Calamity's in the chat.
I love
Oh,
Calamity.
clearly.
Hey.
I love Calamity. Yeah.
I guess that leaves little on me.
Oh my God, it leaves big. You are not little. Do not diminish yourself.
Can I
Uh,
I forgot
yeah,
to
go.
say one thing that
Yes,
I was
go.
going to
Please.
plug, and it's relevant to this panel too. So at the end of last year, I got to basically I created an adventure in a setting not from scratch, but inspired by 1940s San Juan, Puerto Rico, and I got to run it as a 4-shot for the Good Time Society, Becca Scott's channel, using the Call of Cthulhu system. And so I would love for you all to watch it. The link is in chat. Thank you. I think Lonzo or someone put the link in chat. Thank you for that. But that was like, I just want to mention that here because it's also another way that I find myself navigating towards just like, just getting in touch with my identity and my cultures, my various cultures. And so definitely check it out. It's really fun. We had a great time playing it, and I had a great time designing it. And I'm going to write it up for, my God, brain, Call the Cthulhu Company. Wow, brain, it's gone. The company that publishes Call of Cthulhu, which is Chaosium.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Wow.
something Isium.
Chaosium. Sorry. But yeah, sorry. I just wanted to mention that before we end.
Yeah, thanks for
And-
mentioning that. I'm gonna check it out.
No, thank you. And also late plug because I'm realizing Gameheads is a mentorship program for BIPOC youth students interested in game development. I am a Gameheads alum, so like ask questions and check out Gameheads on Twitter. They are where I am in the industry today, so like a lot of love to them. Wish I had their link handy, but yeah, I can't speak enough good about them. But we are running over, so I should stop.
Sorry about that.
Gonzo, you need to talk about yourself, or I'm going to just start shouting about you.
I might as well do that because
You know how loud I can be. Listen, you met me in
I do.
person.
I do. So I'm Lonzo Gonzo. This is my channel. I guess you could find me at twitch.tv/LonzoGonzo_. I am a part-time variety streamer. So that means I stream wherever the fuck I want because I got 2 kids, a full-time job, and I'm a husband. So I got to put food on the table. Other than that, you can also find me on Rolling These 20s. We are a BIPC group of tabletop players where we do anything from Dungeons and Dragons, Cyberpunk Red, Philly by Night. You can find me there tomorrow where we're doing our season 4, season 5. Dimples, if you're still in chat, please correct me. Philly by Night. We're going to be doing that premiere 9 o'clock over there. That's my sister station where I play Oscar de Leon Ponce, a Ravnos techno hacker kindred. Next week on the 12th, I'm starting a new TTRPG streamed event. They came from beneath the sea. The Draconic Verses is going to be running that. I don't have a link because I've been busy doing all of this. The past month and a half has been this. And I just want to say thank you so much, everyone here on this panel, everyone here in the previous panel. I want to do a huge shout out. I know he's probably going to yell at me, but Robo Goblin TTRPG Gifts, thank you so much. This is the reason why we are here, because you brought us together for Up Latine. I met so many other people from here, from that. We did Somos Familia, and everyone within that space has just been so welcoming, so supportive, so kind, so helpful. Just a big boost. So I can't thank you individuals enough. I don't know where we'd be at without these amazing people here. Please support everyone here because they deserve it. You've heard everyone else's story. You know what we've all been through, but do not support us through our trauma. Support us all the time, every time. Be there, retweet, engage, because we are here. We are Latina. We aren't going anywhere.
So there.
For every trauma tweet that you retweet from us, retweet like 5 of the awesome things that we're doing.
Or you owe us $5.
Or
and we
you
will
owe
find
us
you.
or tip us money.
Send us money.
We'll find you.
Drop
But
our
thank
Venmos real
you.
quick.
Thank you to this panel. Thank you to DC for producing tonight and last
Hell
night.
yes,
Thank you
yes,
so
yes,
much.
yes, yes, thank you.
Yes, DC.
The mods that been modding yesterday and today, thank you so much. A lot of people came last minute. Mo, thank you for pulling people from Utopia. Appreciate that. The people who reached out to me through Twitter, who's even able to just do maybe like an hour or two. Thank you so much. Also, thank you to everyone in chat for breaking the goal. What's the thing at now?
1525. So not only did you reach your $500 goal, you
tripled it.
exceeded it.
Yeah.
Literally
Wow.
triple
Yeah.
that.
I
triple
didn't do that. We all did that. We all did that. I'm gonna stay here and say that I did it. But
No, I'm just saying, sulfies in your name, sir.
Raices, you've donated that much money to Raices. We've raised that much money to Raices. And don't forget, those in the US, a lot of your employers can match your benefits as well. So save your receipts, submit them to your employers. They can match those benefits sometimes, if not 100% of the time. So if you donated $20, $5, $10, that's an extra amount of money that's going towards them. So please keep your receipts, submit that, speak to your HR department, find out what you need to do to get that done. RACIS is a nonprofit pro bono legal and social services group that gives aid to migrants, refugees, children who get caught up in the immigration shitty system that we have. Based out of Texas, they visit our clients in the detention centers. They offer them medical information and assistance. They also offer legal representation for children's rights since 1986. So thank you so much. I feel like we didn't touch on everything. So this has to be something done again, whether it's we find some other medium for this or what. I think the next time we do something like this, I want to kind of look into sponsorships.
Hell
I have no
yeah.
idea about going about it because this
Do
was
it.
so
Do it.
No,
This
you
is
know
so
what? You
rushed.
know what we do though is that we got communication, we got people, we got connections.
we have
we'll figure it out.
Yeah, we have ways of getting about this.
Yeah.
I have no idea who was live because I do not have my Twitch up at all. I think if I know Ed is on.
Oh, okay.
I geeked out. Ed was a fellow Team Breadbox member, Mexican Latina as well, was featured on the front page during Spanish Heritage Month. So we're gonna go ahead and raid red. Mods, if you could do exclamation raid for that, that we get that started. You could go ahead and copy that over. I'm gonna mute this tab and get in Ed's chat, and then we're gonna go over and send the love over there. Again, everyone, thank you so much for stopping by, listening to our stories. This was amazing. I really wish we could do this for like another hour or so, because this is just
Yeah.
like everyone's been saying, the validation within this room has been a lot. So let's go ahead. I'm gonna start the raid over. That way I can stop talking, because that's I'll just keep babbling. I get it from my dad. But we're gonna do this again. It might not be on this channel, it may be on someone else's channel. But we're not going anywhere. Deal with it. Bye.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.